Welcome back to Ignite the Fire, where we dive into messages from Flame Community Church. This week, we're focusing on a sermon by Marie Jarvis. She's the women's pastor at Flame. And let me tell you, this one really hit home for me. Ever feel like you're just caught in a storm, totally overwhelmed and unsure of what to do next?
Yeah.
Well, Marie tackles this exact feeling.
Mm.
And what I found so powerful was her honesty about how even she grapples with those moments of self-doubt and uncertainty.
Yeah, it's interesting how she kicks off the sermon, isn't it? Talking about wrestling with finding the right topic, even tossing out drafts because they just didn't feel right. It makes you realize that even someone in her position, someone who's supposed to have all the answers, still goes through those very human struggles.
It's so relatable. I mean, haven't we all felt that pressure when we're trying to create something? That feeling of, I'm not good enough. But then she brings in this incredible story about a stormy night.
Mm.
It ends up being like a turning point for her.
Oh, yeah, that's where she really pulls you in. She paints this vivid picture of the wind howling, rain lashing against everything, that sense of chaos and things being ripped apart. But what stood out to me was how she describes feeling grateful for her shelter, while also thinking about those who might not have that same protection. It's this powerful mix of gratitude and concern, like two sides of the same coin.
Exactly. And then she uses that experience to pose these really thought-provoking questions to her congregation. Like, who's got you in the storm?
Mm.
And what are you focusing on? The chaos swirling around you? Or the one who's holding you steady? It's like she's challenging us to really examine where we're placing our attention in those moments of overwhelm.
Yeah, it's a subtle but profound shift in perspective, isn't it? Reminds me of that verse from Hebrews 13:5, where it says, I will never leave you nor forsake you, even when we feel lost and alone. Like we're being tossed around in a storm, there's this unwavering presence, this anchor that holds us fast.
I love how she weaves in that scripture because it speaks to a core element of faith,
Hmm.
that trust in something bigger than ourselves, especially when things get tough. It's like she's saying, hey, storms are a part of life, but you're not alone in navigating them.
It's a comforting thought, especially in today's world where it feels like there's a constant barrage of challenges coming at us from all sides. But then she takes us even further by introducing a concept from another pastor, Louis Giglio, about not giving the enemy a seat at your table. I was intrigued by where she was going with this.
Me too. It
Oh,
felt like a bit of a curveball at first, but the way she connected it back to the storm analogy was brilliant.
it is a clever connection. She starts by explaining Giglio's metaphor. Imagine a banquet table, piled high with delicious food, representing all the blessings and abundance God has in store for us. But sometimes, we unknowingly let doubt, fear, negativity, those enemies, take a seat at the table, crowding out the joy and gratitude we should be experiencing.
It's like we're focusing so much on the potential storm clouds on the horizon that we forget to enjoy the feast right in front of us. And what makes it even more impactful is how Marie ties this into her own personal struggles. She opens up about her own feelings of inadequacy, those moments where she has to consciously remind herself of God's promises. It makes her message so much more authentic and relatable.
Yes, it humanizes her
Yeah.
and reminds us that we're all in this together, even those who seem to have it all figured out. And then comes that pivotal moment where she realizes she needs to take her own advice and kick the enemy off the table.
That's such a powerful image. And it speaks to the agency we have in shaping our own thoughts and experiences. We don't have to passively accept those negative voices that try to take up space in our minds. We have the power to choose what we focus on, what we give energy to.
It's a crucial reminder that we're not helpless victims of our circumstances or our emotions. We can actively choose to replace fear with faith, negativity with gratitude. It's not always easy, of course.
Yeah.
But Marie's message reminds us that it's a choice we have the power to make. And what I appreciate is how she doesn't just leave it at a theoretical level. Like, she gets really specific about how this plays out in her own life. She talks about literally catching herself saying things like, I can't do this, and then consciously replacing those thoughts with, I can do this because God said I can.
Yeah, it's like she's giving us this practical toolkit for managing our inner dialogue. I love that she even admits to having to remind herself of these truths, like right before going on stage to deliver the sermon.
Yeah.
It just goes to show that this is a constant battle, even for someone in her position.
That vulnerability is what makes her message so powerful. She's not preaching from some unattainable pedestal. She's right there in the trenches with us, wrestling with those same doubts and fears.
It's a beautiful reminder that we're all on this journey together, figuring things out as we go, and none of us are immune to those negative thoughts creeping in. But the key, as Marie emphasizes, is what we choose to do with them.
Right. We have a choice. We can either let those thoughts take root and control our actions, Or we can choose to evict them and replace them with something more life-giving.
It's like she's saying, look, you're the bouncer at the door of your mind. You decide who gets in and who stays out.
That's such a great way to put it, and I think it circles back beautifully to that initial storm analogy. We can't always control the storms that come our way in life, but we can control how we respond to them, where we place our focus. Do we fixate on the chaos and let fear take over, or do we anchor ourselves to the one who offers stability, even in the midst of all the turbulence?
It's a profound message of hope and resilience, isn't it? And what resonates with me is that it applies to everyone, regardless of their background or beliefs, whether you're facing challenges at work, in your relationships, with your finances, or just the general chaos of everyday life. Marie's sermon offers a powerful reminder that you have the power to choose your perspective, to choose where you place your focus.
Absolutely. And that choice can make all the difference in how we navigate those inevitable storms. It's about recognizing that we're not alone in the struggle, and that there are tools and resources available to help us weather the storms and emerge even stronger on the other side.
It's definitely a message worth revisiting, especially when we find ourselves feeling overwhelmed or lost in the midst of life's challenges.
I couldn't agree more. It's a reminder that we all have that capacity for incredible strength and resilience. And sometimes all it takes is a shift in focus, a conscious choice to invite faith and hope to take a seat at our table, to transform our experience of the storm.
And what really struck me was how Marie acknowledges that this whole, choosing faith over fear thing, it isn't always easy, you know. She's honest about the fact that it's an ongoing process and that we're all going to have those moments where we stumble and let those negative thoughts take over.
Yeah, that's what makes her message so refreshing and relatable. She doesn't shy away from the messiness of it all. She even jokes about having to, give her head a wobble sometimes just to shake off those negative thought patterns.
Right. That bit made me laugh out loud because I think we've all been there, where we need to give ourselves a mental reset and refocus on what's true and good.
It's a good reminder that faith isn't about being perfect or having it all figured out. It's about showing up as we are, imperfections and all, and choosing to trust in something bigger than ourselves, even when we don't feel like it.
Exactly. It's about progress, not perfection.
Yeah.
And I think it's a really encouraging message for anyone who's ever felt like they're not good enough in their faith.
Absolutely. And to bring it full circle, I think that's Marie's ultimate call to action in this sermon. It's an invitation to take a look at our own lives and see what's taking up space at our metaphorical table. Are we giving too much power to fear, doubt, and negativity? Or are we making a conscious effort to invite faith, hope, and gratitude to take a seat?
It's a powerful open to ponder, isn't it? Because ultimately we do have the power to choose who gets a seat at our table, who gets to influence our thoughts and emotions.
Yeah, it all comes down to choice. And as Marie so beautifully illustrated, even in the midst of the storms of life, we have the power to choose where we place our focus, who we allow to take up space in our hearts and minds.
Such a powerful message. And for anyone who wants to hear the full sermon and soak in all of Marie's wisdom, don't forget you can watch full sermons on Flame's Facebook, YouTube, or website.
A great resource for anyone wanting to dive deeper into this topic.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with this. What's taking up space at your table right now? And what can you do to reclaim that space for something more life-giving?
It's a question worth reflecting on, because when we become intentional about who we invite into our lives, both literally and metaphorically, we open ourselves up to a world of possibility and joy, even in the midst of the storms.
Absolutely. God bless and see you next week.